So hi, I'm Luciana, and hi Daniel. How are you? It's nice to have you here.
Good. Good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so I just wanted to start talking a little bit about you and your whole journey to where you are right now.
Yeah.
So I know that you were raised with a very strong influence of martial arts. What can you tell me about that? Like, how has that affected you, like growing up?
It was pretty much my salvation in a lot of different ways to who I am as a person and how it made me overcome a lot of not only my insecurities, but I was really shy in my shell when I was really young. I got bullied. It really helped all around with that. But, on my mom's side of the family, everyone's black belts. Like my aunts and uncles and all. And my uncle Stacy had this really surreal experience to where he became like the state champion for Florida one year. He ended up meeting Chuck Norris, got to spar Chuck Norris a little bit. And so I kind of have that influence already growing up through the process. And I think for my mom, it was more like a waiting game of, okay, when are we going to get Daniel into this stuff? And then right around fifth grade is whenever that happened. And so it really has defined who I am today. And I don't think I would be the person I am today without my martial arts journey behind me.
Yeah, and like being raised with so many people that have accomplished so much, do you feel like that added to like the competitiveness of the whole martial arts aspect of your life?
100%. We are a very competitive family. We are most competitive at Settlers of Catan. I don't know if you heard that board game, but it's a fun one. But just that spirit of just fighting through your inner demons, fighting through life, fighting through. We're all a bunch of fighters, and I've had that strong influence my whole life. We talk when we talk about walking in the shadows of people. I would get told a lot of times that I have my Uncle Stacy speed, and I'm just like, man, I do. Well, I want to be better than him, so I'm gonna try to get. It can be intimidating sometimes, just knowing the lineage that I have with my family and everyone in martial arts. Always trying to, not necessarily prove myself, but prove that I can kind of be the best I can be and follow in those footsteps of, the legacy that was given. And so that can be a little bit intimidating, but we us Puckett Clan slash Samus Clan, we fight through stuff. We're fighters, so it's been a very competitive through my life with martial arts, but a good one, and that led to a lot of opportunities, just including sharing the stage with an Olympian in competition, which is pretty exciting. And so it's just one thing I tell my students: this is about the journey, and you have your ups and downs, but the journey is the surreal part through your life that martial arts can give. And I've definitely had a very surreal journey with that.
So, what would you say is the biggest difference between coaching and being participating in martial arts competitively?
One of the biggest differences for me is the pride I have within my students versus being on the mat. You get that self-rewarding feeling when you're competing and you get those little wins. It feels good. But one of the biggest prides in my career as a coach, as a instructor, as a professor, is seeing my students go out there and then just doing their thing with the teachings that I taught them and kicking butt. My students were at a jiu-jitsu competition this past weekend, and we were knocking out Gracie Barra, top level jiu-jitsu schools. And, it's like one of those things where it's like, I taught him that. Let's go. There's a lot of pride, a lot of a lot more feeling of joy that I have now as a coach, going out there and seeing my students pretty much just doing their thing, and just knowing that like you have a hand in their journey, and you have that guiding hand in their life. Very much how like my instructor had a huge part in my life. And so being able to fill those shoes for now my athletes, it's a surreal feeling.
Yeah, and I also wanted to know, do you think that you would have still pursued this career in martial arts if it weren't for the legacy that your family left you?
If I'm being honest, probably if not, if I didn't have that influence. In the time of my life back then, I was very in my shell, self-conscious, doubted myself. I mean, I knew I loved Karate Kid. You know, it's still a bit cliche, but like that's everyone's favorite movie. But I love that, and I liked. It did always interest me. But I'm just thankful to have that, you know, legacy that I had before me to kind of introduce me to it, kind of push me into it. I was very much the type of person that needed that little shove. So when I got that, it was perfect, and I just ran with it.
Yeah, and I know that you've practiced different types of martial arts. What would you say the biggest differences are between them, and which one do you like the most?
I'm always going to be a diehard karate favorite martial art practitioner. I do think that there's each martial art has its own strength, and being able to learn the different styles truly does well blend you as a fighter. It really does complement each other. One things that you learn from, let's say, Taekwondo to karate, it can help in both aspects, from karate to jiu-jitsu, taekwondo to jiu-jitsu, or jiu-jitsu to Muay Thai, all that type of stuff. It definitely, you know, helps form you into this kind of your own fighter who you are as a fighter. But karate is a lot like kickboxing. My style is open style karate, and so that was really heavily influenced in the style of kickboxing. And so I love to kick a lot. And so when I started competing at U.S. Open, I ran across a competitor who became pretty much one of my best friends, and he invited me to come up and train, and that's how I got introduced into Taekwondo. And then I was like, you know, I love kicking, so why not? Let's go and learn Taekwondo. And, you know, being able to adapt the way I kicked from karate to Taekwondo was kind of hard, but a little bit easy at the same time. And then when I got that introduction to jujitsu, and I just kind of I loved it too. I ran with it, you know. And so the thing that I love about martial arts is you can learn different pieces of each art and apply them to you, and just take out the ones that don't work with you or don't apply. You know. And I think Taekwondo definitely has a strength of kicking. I think karate definitely has a strength of, you know, the combination of both. Boxing has a strength in punching. Muay Thai has strength with those elbows and knees, and just being able to adapt from all of them and kind of cultivate them into your own unique style has been so cool. I always tell everybody I could talk for days about martial arts, just because I think it's so awesome, like the differences and what you can pull from one art to another art, from another style to another style. And, you know, I love wrestling or too. So jiu-jitsu, when I started learning that was just even better too.
Yeah, and you've had a lot of years working in martial arts. And what would you say would be one of the best like stories or experiences that you've had because of martial arts?
So my story, I'm trying to try not to sound too cliche with this. But again, I reference Karate Kid. At my home dojo, Spivey Karate. There were a lot of, at that time it was really booming. When I was a kid growing up into it, there was a lot of people there, a lot of heavy competition there. And then like so we're at this local tournament, and then, you know, I'm sparring this guy who's like, he was ex-military, really just kind of a beast in general. And, you know, there's rules, you know, to point sparring, and this guy was starting to get a little bit crazy, a little bit out of hand, so much to the point to where like he like did a round kick. Well, I did a round kick. Sorry, he caught it, and he tried to like elbow my round kick, almost like off the original Karate Kid when Johnny Lawrence tries to break Danny LaRusso's leg. And so like he does that, I'm limping, and then I'm like, man, I want to keep going, I want to keep going. And so I'm mentally prepared to just kind of like do the whole, you know, Karate Kid kick thing. Well, my parents pulled me out, but that's always going to stick to my brain as like one of them. But then the real surreal moment is just like the U.S. Open. Honestly, that's the tournaments where I was surrounded by the best of the best. when it comes to kata, when it comes to sparring, and just sharing the stage with some of those competitors. I'm like, man, it was a surreal moment. And that's a moment that I'm also never going to forget too, just knowing that like I was there competing with the best of the best. And one of them eventually becoming an Olympian, and it's kind of crazy to think about. I shared a stage with an Olympian before, so that's kind of cool. But those are probably the biggest two that's going to stick out to me the most.
Yeah, and how would you say you prepare to like compete, or just like as well, kind of similar to the difference between like coaching and competing? How do you prepare for a competition, and how do you prepare for a class?
So one thing that I'm always talking about on my students is that you lead by example, and that I'm not going to make you do. And this is my expectation for myself that I set. I also set this on my students. But I tell them I'm not going to make you do anything I can't do. And so when I'm having them do stuff and they're like, "Coach, this is crazy," Professor Sam is, I don't get this. This is dumb. This is hard, too hard. I'm out there on the mat with them doing the same thing. So holding myself to the same standard that I hold them is really, as a coach, the only effective way I really get my training in. Just because teaching classes is you kind of get away from the mat a little bit. But there's a universal concept with jiu-jitsu, and that is that your progression, your skill grows with your time on the mat. And so the more time you have on the mat, the more time you're in class practicing, the better you're going to get in jiu-jitsu. And that's a universal concept everywhere. And I tell my students, man, like, if you could be a crazy good fighter, but if you're not out there training on the mats as much as you can, when you can, it's going to affect you. And there's the mindset I'm leaving them with preparation for this fight is we want to put everything on the mat. That way, when we go up and we fight, we just get to do our thing and walk home. And knowing that, like, we showed the crowd, we showed the people, we showed everybody who we are as martial artists, who we are as fighters.